Oh,
Afternoon, how are we doing?
yeah, Dave, good on you.
Yeah, good.
Fantastic. Oh, there's my cat is shouting from what's just slightly. That's working from home with cats. Uh, the title of my book.
There's definitely a whole series in that.
Definitely. Hello, Graham.
Hi, John. How you doing?
Great, thanks. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Fantastic. There's Pete. Couple of new faces, couple of regulars.
Hi there, all right. Hi, everyone.
How you doing?
Good.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, you guys are early, so early, which is on time. So I'd like to use this opportunity while you guys are early just to find out. I mean, some of you guys I know, Dave I know, Graham I know, but also this opportunity for you guys to network to each other as well. Mm-hmm. So I'd love it if you guys could just, introduce yourselves to the room. Who are you? What do you do? And what is your interest in finding people on LinkedIn? We're here today to talk about today. So Dave, you're on my top left. I'll start with you.
Yeah, no problem. Afternoon, guys. Good to meet you. I do coaching and training, mostly training on productivity, personal productivity, and team effectiveness. My business has gone through quite a change, as many of us have, over lockdown. A lot of it is video based, and it's opened up my potential for customers. So rather than just having a relatively sort of condensed network that I would move around and go into the room, I can be working with people all over the world now, which is exciting and terrifying and complex. So I need better systems for finding people. So that's really why I'm here and why I'm working with John.
Amazing, fantastic. Graham, you want to introduce yourself to the room?
Yeah, okay. There we go. Yeah, my name's Graham Rose. I'm a coach. I have recently transformed myself into a positive intelligence coach. Basically, I help people to recognize and identify their saboteurs and to actually develop a positive way of overcoming them, so that it's not something, it's a quick fix. It actually lasts a lifetime. And so that is really quite powerful. And it may only be small areas of life, but those small areas can sometimes be quite cumulative. And so, I'm really enjoying the training. I mean, my coaching business, I'm only looking for 8 customers per year. So it's not a huge number. But it allows me to do pro bono work, which means helping people who otherwise could not afford a coach. And I feel really passionately about that, because it's all right, people who are doing very, very well in life and they can afford their coaches and stuff. But sometimes the real need is with people that they could get to the next level in their life, but they just need somebody to believe in them, to support them and to encourage them. So that's my mission in life.
Fantastic mission. I think that's a great aligns very well with the philosophy I have, which is to make money so that you can spend the rest of your time doing whatever you want.
Yes, indeed.
Ineffective strategy is to try and make money from people that don't have any. I've tried that as well.
But you can give them time. You can create time for them, or you can create other things which are valued.
Exactly.
And, I mean, the basis to the coaching program is that every opportunity is a gift. And that sounds really blasé, but it's just which side of the line do you see something? Is it when you're stuck in a traffic jam, it gives you a chance to rehearse, to remind yourself of other things, instead of just always looking at, oh, it's holding me up, I'm not getting on with what I want to do. So
fantastic. See a couple of people filtering in here. So guys, for you guys who are new, we're just doing introductions. So as the room fills up, I'm asking you to be concise with your introductions as we're getting more people. Pete, I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, thanks. I might fall into that category of working with people who don't have much money, because my target audience are the founders and startups who are forming and bringing something genuinely new to the market. So I work with them to develop propositions, marketing, and better launch plans to turn around the odds and make more science and technology companies successful.
Fantastic. Love that. Very passionate about startups as well. So welcome. Excellent. Baron Mead, all the way from Miami.
Hey, John, how are you? Nice to meet everybody. So I've gotten to know John over the last couple of years from my coach. So it's been great. Looking forward to a big year here and learning. Whenever I see a John Daniels seminar, I try to find time to listen and learn. So I'm a student.
Well, great to see you, Baron. And no pressure. Hopefully I have something worthwhile today. Amazing. Kim, who's on the call, works with me. So Kim, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Also from South Africa. So, in South Africa, we have big problems with, I'm a South African in Edinburgh. We have big problems with electricity at the moment and bandwidth and stuff. So my South African colleagues are probably might or might not go on camera. Sue as well is also on the call, is also part of my team.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Great stuff. And then we've got Jennifer, Martin, and Jay. If you guys want to just say, if you do want to say hi, and just introduce yourself, because it's a networking opportunity for you guys as well. You're most welcome. Jennifer,
Hey
welcome.
there. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. It's nice to meet everyone. Excited to learn about LinkedIn and how I can get to my ideal client. So thank you for hosting this.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Martin, do you want to say a few words? Maintain an ominous silence if the answer is no. Okay. I'm going to go with no. All right. Fantastic. And Jay, I'm going to say, if you want to introduce yourself, you're most welcome. If not, let's crack on. So what I'm going to do is I'll talk a little bit about just the broader picture about, where we're going with this, finding, this is my version of kind of the marketing funnel. Now, it's a bit of my background. I've been in digital marketing close to 20 years. I've worked with all sorts of more than 450 different types of businesses in total, from funded startups to plumbers to coaches, consultants, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, cats, who I actually work for. Otherwise, you'll keep shouting at me. I mean, basically, I work for my cat. So over time, I've had a lot of opportunity to be able to work with a lot of different types of businesses, but also be able to spend a lot of other people's money building marketing systems of various ways and shapes and forms. And the people, when I think about my ideal client, the people I want to work with are people I call change makers or light bringers, right? People that are wanting to make a difference in the world, right? And these are coaches, consultants, practitioners. It could be marketing people, but basically it's kind of in the consultant practitioner space. These are the people that have really helped me along my journey, and just the people I like to hang out with. And so out of all of the different, especially over the last 2 years, I've really focused all my marketing experience and frameworks at building systems for this group of people. So those are my ideal clients, and it's basically you guys, right? So this is sort of the frame of, and this is my current working model of a business in this expert space is basically what you're doing is building a bridge for your people, the people you're serving, to get from where they are to where they want to be. Not where you want to be, but where they want to be. It's about their journey and empowering their journey. And all the stuff that we're doing, the knowledge, the practices, the principles, the frameworks are to help them get where they want to go. Now, to do that and to run a business doing that, consider this bridge, the sort of 4 steps of the bridge that we want to build. The first one is awareness, which is these people need to be aware of who you are. Secondly, consideration, to be able to interact with you guys a little bit, find out a little bit about who you are, and see if where they fit into your world. So that's where you guys are in the moment in my process. You're in the consideration phase. And I really love this as a consideration phase, because it's very easy, to build a rapport, to ask questions, to get to know me, and decide if what I have to offer fits with you. And this is a great way, I consider, for you guys to be able to do this. But it doesn't really matter how you do it. You need at least one working piece of that bridge. Then you need decision, at least one way of someone to actually make a decision to say, yes, I do want to work with you, yes or no. And then delivery is where you actually deliver your program, whether it be one-to-one coaching, whether it be a group program, whether it be a blended process, or some kind of digital delivery, whether it's a course. And instead of mapping out the expert space, that seems like a logical way to do it. Start with high price one-to-one. Then once you see the patterns, do groups, then do a blended version of that as you develop assets for that. And ultimately, you then have digital giveaways or standalone courses as well. And that's how you evolve kind of a mature expert business ecosystem. But if you rewind it all back down, it comes back down to this question of your ideal client, because everything else goes back to that. When you're building your bridge, when you're building your system, whether it be your coaching practice, your group, your products, your services, it all comes back down to who are we building this for, right? And that's something I've become quite fanatical about is ideal client, is who's your ideal client, because once you know who they are, everything else kind of lives in that context. Cool. So if we had to think about your ideal client, and if you think about your ideal client as one person, but you can think about it as a group of people. Now, we'll talk a little bit about kind of the framework for your ideal client. I have a whole nother session on that because I love it so much. But I want you guys to think just for a moment. If you had to imagine like the planet, right? And out of all of the planets, 7.4 billion people and counting, I'll have you consider that potentially you don't want to work with all of them. You want to work with some of them, right? And as Graham is a great example, he's only looking for 8 people a year, right? So for the next 100 years, Graham's only going to work with potentially 800 people. So it's 800 people. That's all we're looking for. And because Graham's going to invest in life extension technology, and generally all our life expectancies are. And if you do what you love, you might very well live to a ripe old age of 120. So it's actually, in this expert space, we're looking, it's quite a small number of people, which as Jennifer's saying, is actually quite liberating. I call it passing through the eye of the needle, where you go from, I want to help everybody, to I'm only going to help these people. And then there's all the nervous system triggers that go up and go, oh, I'm losing all those people. And then once you focus in on that niche and that segment, suddenly the whole world seems to open up. Because if you're super specific, it's still probably like 100,000 people out there that is your total addressable audience. Okay. Now, if you think about that from the planetary scale now, those 100,000 potential people, whether or not you work with them one-to-one, but if you think about the system that you're building of some kind of awareness process, whether it be ads or invitations or webinars or posters or whatever, some kind of consideration process, some kind of decision process, but then also some kind of delivery process, which has free and paid components to it. What is the vision? What is the impact of that, doing that over the next 20 years? Right? What is the vision that we're creating here? So if you had to imagine, this outside edge being all of those people, potentially that might not know who you are right now. The transformation we're looking at is from them feeling alone to building a community. Much like what's starting to happen as I commit to these webinars regularly, I'm starting to get regulars, which is great. Like, this is a predictable outcome if you show up consistently. From not having their problem being solved to actually having it solved in a rhythm, in a predictable method. From only finding generic advice to getting super specific advice, and from not knowing where to turn to knowing exactly, who it is that you become the go-to solution for a very specific problem. Okay, so this is the sort of planetary shift which is possible once we start showing up consistently. And I've got to formalize that into a system that I call the Conscious Business Accelerator system. And it's kind of one of the things I'm focusing on right now in terms of getting that out into the world. Okay. But it all starts with your ideal client. Okay. So that's the frame. This is the whole transformation that we're looking at. But I'm going to zoom in now and let's go and see, assuming you know who you're looking for, how do we actually go and find those people, specifically on LinkedIn? All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions. If you have a piece of paper, just start jotting the stuff down to give you the raw materials of when we go searching. I'm going to give you some ideas to start looking for. So the first one is, who do you actually want to spend time with? If you have a piece of paper, just start having a scribble down of the kinds of people. Remember, we're talking about your ideal clients, like people that you actually want to spend time with. And what are potentially some of their characteristics? Okay, just give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up icon when you're done, or an actual thumbs up. Dave's done. Fantastic. I see Luther's joined us. Hey, Luther. Good to see you. Luther is a famous networker from South Africa. Fantastic. All right. Okay. So next thing we're going to look at and just start scribbling down is who are they connected to? Like, who are they friends with? Who do you know that knows these people? Okay, again, just give me a thumbs up when you've got. You don't have to do an extensive list, but just a couple, one or two. And I encourage you, if you're serious about this, to develop these lists further. Right. Okay. So next thing to think about is, who do they follow? Like, who, what celebrities, influencers do they potentially follow? Yes, Luther, I do know Scott Kundell. Kim and I both know Scott Kundell. We worked on the Majestic platform for many years. So yes, we do know Scott Kundell. And I think that's where we know you from. Well, I mean, you're kind of low-key famous in our circle, so that's where we know you from. Right. So in terms of who do they follow, do they follow, I don't know, is it Richard Branson? Is it John Robert Kiyosaki? Is it, I don't know who? I mean, your client, you would know these things. You're like, who are the kinds of people that they would follow? Okay, again, we're just looking for a small list. And right. Yes, and Jennifer, if you're not sure, again, we're just looking for a rough guess. But what I will do shortly, I've got a couple of questions. What we'll do is I'll actually pull up a profile and we'll start to see how we map all this stuff out. And then thirdly is, how do we use that to actually go and search for people? So I'm looking for right now is just kind of a rough idea so that you've got something to start with. Okay. Think about what kind of events do they go to? Okay. So if you're looking to target franchisees, maybe there's events about franchising or some aspects of franchising. Pete, if you're looking for startup founders, maybe they hang out at events with venture capital people, or maybe lean startup related events, or those kind of things. Okay. Where do they work? Do they have? Are there specific companies that you're targeting? Are there companies that you want to find people at? What kinds of companies? I mean, if it's specific companies, great. If it's, and I worked with a client that he only worked with Fortune 500 companies. That's it. Okay. Very specific niche, but fantastic. Great thing for me as a marketer, because you don't need to be right that often if you're selling things that cost, $100,000 at a time. I don't need to be right that often in order to deliver ROI from that kind of space. If you guys have any questions about this, please just shout. as you go. I appreciate some of you guys are on mute. I don't know what's going on in the background. But I have cats shouting in the background, so who knows? But if you have any questions around this, just shout. And then job titles, or the specific job titles that they have. Maybe you're only looking for CEOs, presidents, CFOs. Maybe they're coaches with books, coaches that have podcasts. These are the kind of things that we'd be looking at. And then lastly, for now, I want to think about what do they write about? Are there specific topics that they would potentially write about? Now, there's another dimension to this, is that you can think about your ideal client, but you can also think about your ideal client at a specific part in their journey. So Pete, as an example, startup founders are always startup founders, but I can imagine around about the time that they're looking for funding might be a prime time where they're specifically motivated to speak to somebody like you. Does that sound sensible? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Where they're particularly motivated to speak to somebody that will help them, articulate their pitch. Dave does a lot of work around resilience and business resilience. So potentially, either before or just after some kind of tumultuous event, they might be particularly motivated to start working with somebody like Dave. Very strangely, the time people spend the most on cybersecurity, just after a hack, right? Okay. I mean, you'd think the time to do it was before, but these are the kind of things. It's of your target market. Also think about what are the trigger points that potentially they could be, what they. Okay. Right. So with all of that, you guys probably start to have a pretty good idea of, a rough idea of your target market. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let's actually pull up LinkedIn and dig a little bit deeper into those characteristics and just show you how you can look at a profile, and start to reverse engineer this stuff. All right. So this is one of the great things I learned from the lean methodology, because marketing, I find, is a lot of stuff out there, and we make a lot of assumptions about our ideal client, and there's something that's over there. But lean have this principle called Genji Genbutsu, which means go and see for yourself. You must always look at the fundamental data, the primary data, to ground your assumptions. It caused me to rethink a lot of things about marketing. I used to do marketing and ask questions about, who's your ideal client? But with a business of a certain size, you rather say, show me your invoices, because the invoices have the actual facts about who the clients are, as opposed to the kind of ideas about these things. Okay, right, so we're all ready to dive into LinkedIn. Yes, this is what you all came here for. Righto. All right, so there's a couple of things. I'll use my profile, and if you want to know how to optimize your profile, stay tuned for other exciting presentations entitled "How to Optimize Your LinkedIn Profile." I should have prefaced that with now a message from our sponsors. Right, but you can look at a profile. We can look at mine, or we can look at any. I mean, is there anyone? We'll look at my profile, and then we can have a look at things. So there's a couple of things inside the profile. So obviously there's my name, there's my title, and you can see I put a bit of work into that. But all of these things, everything in LinkedIn is searchable, right? It's probably one of the most powerful search engines out there. Everything is searchable. So the title is searchable. Now. Obviously there's job title and also all the activity that you can go and see. So there's my about, even things like the about us page is also searchable. Also experience, existing and previous job titles, all searchable. Right. So you can go and see for your specific client, and it's worthwhile taking someone that you're specifically looking to target and say, okay, what are their job titles now and previously. Education, also searchable. Skills, interests, and over here you can see interests, you can see who I'm following. Okay. Right. So it's worthwhile taking, someone who is actually a client, taking that list that you've just got and comparing it with somebody who's actually a client. Okay. Now, I'm going to use a different example just to show you. I'm going to use Graham's profile just as an example, because as possible. But if you see, so here's Graham's profile. You can also see what our mutual connections are. Right. So if you had to pick a target client, go and look at your target client and look what the mutual connections are and see who their friends are. Like I see we both know Derek Robertson. I've actually done some work with Derek Robertson. Right. So interesting. So connections of and see who they're connected to. All right. So let's see, Aura, is there anybody else that we are connected to? All right. So this is quite a good, hey, we're both friends with Jimmy O'Connell. And these are all very natural ways of being able to say, I can go and find, you can go and connect with people and see who are they friends with and who are the potential centers of influence that you can reach out to. So it actually turns out Graham's actually a pretty good center of influence. I should probably, develop a relationship with Graham and see if he can introduce me to some people. Lee Foster, Mike Stevenson, Dennis. I've been on Dennis's training course. Chris Branch, really great guy. Really solid on LinkedIn. He's got a pretty amazing process. All right. So these are how you can see, kind of who they're connected to, or who they're friends with. Okay. Now the power of LinkedIn is now you've got all this mesh. You can now start using LinkedIn to put all of these things together, right? And start building all these things together. All right. So what you've seen over here, as soon as I clicked on Graham's profile and said, show me common connections, you can see that the search bar here has opened up. Okay, and this is where things start to get quite exciting. So you can get to it basically from any search. So I'm going to start here, and you see it's actually started with a kind of search, which is a people search. Right. So I'm going to start from, and from there I can see people, I can see first degrees connections of Graham. You can also filter them by things like location. You can also filter things by companies, and you can also filter by things like all of this stuff, right? So this is where you can, the LinkedIn search is actually so powerful in terms of being able to go and search for things. So in terms of, I had to go back to the presentation. So here's the first one in terms of who are they connected to, right? So in terms of who are they connected to, I think we've covered that off. Are you happy that we've covered that off in terms of, finding, if you had to find one person that they're connected to, it stands to reason if one client is connected to one of those people, you might find other people that are connected to the similar person. Okay, so I said, okay, let's look for Graham. If I find, for example, hey, Graham is connected to Chris, fantastic. From Chris, I could probably then go, depending on Chris's privacy policy, okay, so he has hidden his connections. Very cheeky, Chris. All right. But what we can do over here is click on this. Actually, I have quite a lot of mutual connections, right? So if I can see, if one of my clients is connected to Chris, I can look at Chris's connections and see who, and this is probably one of the simplest ways of, if you take nothing else from today, just use this, because it's a very natural connection path from there to be able to reach out to, these are people in my first degree connections already. So these are people I'm already connected to. You know, I could reach out to Graham and say, hey, like, I didn't realize that we were both connected to Chris. How are you getting connected to Chris? How did you know him? And now we're in a conversation. And these are people in my first level connections. If we had to look at second level connections, these are people I'm not currently connected to. And okay, Chris has limited his right. So in one of the other, in your LinkedIn, in the LinkedIn profile session, I'll show you how you can set the privacy policies so that, you know, how many people can see your connections. But let's just do an example here. So again, I've done first degree connections. You can go first and secondary connections, and you should see quite a large number, that number expanding quite significantly. So in terms of who people are connected to, if you share a connection or if you know somebody there's a potential center of influence, this is how you use LinkedIn to actually go and find those people. And it's very easy then to be able to send a connection message to say, hey, you know, we're both friends, we're both connected to Chris. How do you know Chris? And say something quite, you know, say something personal and meaningful. Okay. Again, I have another, in terms of how to talk to people on LinkedIn, it's a whole nother chapter. Okay. But today's question is about how do we find the people in the first place? All right. So that's one of the things where we looked at.
Almond croissant, please. Can I make almond croissant just now?
Beg your pardon?
Sorry, I was just asking my wife. She asked me if I wanted an almond croissant. So she was bringing me. That was all. It was just refreshing. Just
always yes to an almond croissant. Definitely. No trouble at all. All right. So that's the first question. Who are they connected to? All right. And hopefully I've shown you guys how, once you know who they're connected to, how you use LinkedIn to find out all the people that they're, you know, once they're connected, you know that they're connected to a certain person, you can look at the connections, both first degree connections and secondary connections, to be able to go and find those people. All right. So second thing is who do they follow? Now, if we know who they follow, so let's just have a look at, so we've done secondary connections to Sophia, for example. That's 158 results. If you wanted to subdivide that by people that they follow, this is actually a fairly recent addition that you can say who they are following.
John, can I ask, is this from Sales Navigator or Premium or anything like that? Is this just the basic LinkedIn membership?
This is just the basic LinkedIn. I mean, I've had all of those things as well, and I do dip in and out of those things. But what I found is that, you know, for the expert community, which is us, like, you don't need all of that extra stuff. You know, there's actually so much gold just in the free version that's completely untapped. Which is, you know, why I'm doing these sessions, to say, like, you know, hey guys, you know, there's gold and then there are hills, and there's some, you know, but much closer too. So this is where you can put, you know, you can go and add followers of. You can go, and if you could start the search, you could start the search from 0 and say, you know, only want to search for followers of Robert Kiyosaki, and then connected to Graham. You could pull that search back. Okay. What I will say is the only restriction in the free version is you can get quite carried away with this. It does limit the amount of searches that you do on a daily basis. So at a certain point, you will come up to a limit on the free version, and then you just have to go and do something else for the day and come back the next day. Once you start getting some traction with this, I mean, Sales Navigator is about £100 a month. You know, most of us are selling something that costs more than a bag of chips. Right? So once you start getting traction with this, you know, that cost disappears quite quickly. I don't know if you guys could hear, but my cat was shouting at the door, and this is Sputnik. So he will show up just about every single presentation at some point. So that's Sputnik. Good stuff. Okay. All right, so that's the second one in terms of who do they follow. That's where you find that search filter is who do they follow, and you can add that on there. So that's another dimension that you can put in there. Let's go all filters. All right. What's the next one that we did? Who do they follow? What kind of events do they go to? Right. So this is quite cool. Like I said, events. LinkedIn isn't completely searchable. So Baron is, we're looking at franchising. I'm just going to put, okay, if I can spell franchise, because right. Okay, so I'm just going to reset the filters. So this is if you start from zero. You can search for pretty much any word, right? And it searches all of LinkedIn for the word. So let's use the word franchise. And you could use the word wellness or meditation or almond croissant, if that's what you want to do. And it starts off with, at the moment, it's searching for people. Okay, so we've said people, and it's searching for the word franchise in any of those fields. Remember, we said it's in your title. It could be the title, could be the description, could be about, could be in your activity. Anywhere in there, it's the word franchise. But you can also change that to events. And now what we're seeing is events about things relating to franchises. Startup Expo. Pete, I hope your ears are prickling, because any of these events could be, you could search for startup or lean startup or funding or scaling or any of those type of things. So even if there's a specific vertical that you're looking for within that. Let's talk about franchising, and you can see the number of attendees as well. So I'm just going to pick one at random. Let's talk about franchising. And what you can do then is see who's attending the event, which makes a very natural outreach for you to go, hey, it's a natural assumption to make. If they're going to an event about X, they're probably interested in X. Much the same way, I'm assuming that if you guys are here, you're interested in finding out how to find people on LinkedIn, right? So it's one of the reasons I love events as a marketing mechanism, because you'll notice about 45 people that RSVP'd today, and there's about, I don't know, 8 or 9 people in the room. Normally get about a 10 to 20% RSVP rate. But I've had great conversations with people leading up to the event, because I'm following up with all the people, everybody that RSVP'd, to say, well, what are you up to? Okay. Good stuff. All right, so there's the attendees. And in order to see the attendees, you just simply attend. Nope, I don't want to do that. And ta-da, I can now see the events. Right, and very natural now for you to be, if you wanted to go and reach out and start some conversations with people, to say, hey, Janelle, I see you, we're both interested, we're both going to this event. What's your interest in this, etc. Okay, so if you want to find out more about how to talk to people on LinkedIn, come to my event entitled How to Talk to People on LinkedIn, right? Where it's kind of a conversational framework, but really people overcomplicate it. They're just humans, right? Okay. Make chit chat. There's so much cool information around these people simple, like, hey, Janelle, how are you doing? It's a great place to start. I see we're both going to the same event. Like, how are you doing? What's the weather like in California? Right, and now you're into chit chat. Okay. I think where people overcomplicate it is they try and get all like salesy and try and use all of these conversational stuff. Yes, there's a lot of techniques around that. Yes, there's a lot of frameworks around that. But the Cliff Notes is it's just people. Like, you're used to talking to people. Just talk to them.
John, I was told by another leading South African LinkedIn expert, Tilly Davies, that really the best way to engage with anyone on LinkedIn is by commenting on a post, something that you share, not in a know-it-all sort of version, rather than sending a direct message. Because I have to say, if somebody sent me a direct message, you're immediately thinking, what is their angle? If that's the first contact you have with somebody is a private message, I don't think it's a very good start. I think it's far better to sort of at least made contact with them in the public space. But I'm interested in what other people think.
So I hope I haven't given you the impression in any way that I'm right about any of this stuff, right? Because for every one, I'm going to give you is a library of techniques that you can use. So I spent about, I don't know, probably about 100 hours and about 2,000 pounds on training about how to do direct messages, right? And I've seen lots of different ways of doing it. Some suck, some don't, but now I'm like, okay, you can make it work this way. The next course I'm going to buy is one that is purely about how to post stuff on LinkedIn. There's a guy called Justin Welsh. He's amazing. His entire system is called the operating system. And the whole thing is basically post twice a day on LinkedIn. No, and so a bit of commenting. So there's a way of doing, you can take any one of these strategies and turn it up to 11 and make a whole thing out of it. But my intention today is to give you the openings of those things to say, if direct messaging is your thing, this is the thread you start pulling on. If talking to people at events is your thing, this is the thread to start pulling on. Now, it's a great thing that you asked that you mentioned that, because it speaks to the next one of the other things is, what are they right about? Yeah, because that is absolutely it's a fantastic strategy. Is finding out like the main principles, whether or not it's direct messaging or events or whatever, is compliments and curiosity. Is if you see someone's profile, say something that shows you actually read it, give them a nice compliment, and be genuinely curious. And a lot of the stuff, like the techniques that work best, are hardest to automate, right? Because they actually require that you give a shit, right? That you actually care about the person that you're speaking to, which is why ideal client is so important. Okay, most of the stuff makes no sense to invest this level of energy unless there are people that you really, really want to talk to in the first place. Because if you don't actually want to talk to them, all of this is going to feel forced. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, and it feels forced and contrived. So if you start off with people that you actually want to speak to, and you're actually interested in speaking to, it makes all of the downstream stuff a lot easier. So good stuff. But so it's great that you say that, though, because you can see, you can search for all sorts of stuff. The other thing, the mechanism you're alluding to is posts. You can actually search for posts about certain things. You can also search for posts. So you see what I'm doing here is searching for posts about franchising. So at the moment, I'm just going to use an example of like meditation. Like, I have a lot to say about meditation, right? Like, I have a lot of, meditated a lot. I've done lots of different kinds of meditation. And it's a great conversation starter. So I'm just going to go for, if I search for meditation, I search for posts. And again, so what we've got now is all sorts of posts about meditation. If I wanted to speak to, oh, this is a new one, author industry. Oh, it's the author of the post. Very interesting. Right. So if I wanted to speak to someone who was interested in meditation in financial services, right? Pretty niche. All right, and I like that because not that many people in financial services would be involved in meditation. So it's quite a nice kind of a mix-up. But I'll leave it to you guys in terms of how to assemble this. Like how, who the people that you want to search for, I'll leave that up to you. But this is how you, if you wanted to search for comments, if you wanted to search for people posting about a certain topic, then this is how you do it. You can put the keyword in there, you search for posts, and then you can split that again by people in an industry. And you can really mix and match. You can do, posts from people in financial services that are from a specific person. Like if you wanted to find, like Gary Vaynerchuk posts like all the time. If you wanted to find a post about meditation by Gary Vaynerchuk, you could absolutely do that. Or from a member, or from a date, posted by, or from the date posted. In fact, you can use all of the filters and kind of mix and match them. So that's then a very easy way to say, if I wanted to connect to Harry Jordan, it's another framework comment like add as a connection message. So clam, comment, like, add message. Okay, so comment on the comment, like the post, add them as a connection, send a thoughtful message. Right? That's a framework that you could use. So I don't want to get too bogged down in, like, there's lots of frameworks that we can use, and in future trainings, and in fact in my signature solution, the Conscious Business Accelerator program, we talk a lot about these frameworks. My intention today is to really just drill down on the front end of that, which is how to find the right people in the first place, like how to find people that are on LinkedIn in the first place. Good stuff. So now we've covered off. Let's just make sure I've shown you all the things. So what do people write about? You've seen how we can search on topics. Job titles are available in any of those filters. So if you wanted to search for, founders that were looking for graphic design or posting about graphic design or branding, that's a simple search of, doing a search of branding by someone who is a founder in the job title. Make sense? Then you have the opportunity to go and start engaging with them. Now, there's lots of different, once you've used these searches, you can use, there's a lot of tools that you can then use to take those searches and build them into different workflows and automations. One of the great things inside, so one of the uses of Sales Navigator is once you've built out a target list, it'll actually bring you back a search list of people that have posted on an ongoing basis that you can connect with or comment on. But the can I say the Yorkshire version, right, or the Scottish version of that? The low budget version of that is basically, once you've done a search like this, you just bookmark it, right? And come back to it once every couple of days and see what's changed, and see what's new in terms of people that have posted about a certain topic. And you can go. So my encouragement is that you build a search like this, and you could probably do a couple of them of the searches of your total addressable market. I'm just seeing. There we go. Is you start to build out these searches and map out your total addressing. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Dave. I've got a Scottish Yorkshireman living in Scotland endorsed that message. Fantastic. Is going to build out those searches, and kind of the first thing I'd be looking for is your total addressable market. Like, how many people are there that are your ideal client in total? And then from there, you can start breaking them down into chunks and say, how many people are already in my first degree connections? How many people are in my second degree connections? And what are my paths of conversation to them? And then of those, how many people have posted recently? And then based on that, you can start to build a plan of attack. Okay. Now, again, based on your conversational style, and this is where we come back to building this, is once you found out those people, what is the best way for you to start inviting them on your journey, inviting them on your path? LinkedIn outreach is basically sending messages and commenting on posts is a great way to start. You can then invite them to an event or post about your stuff on LinkedIn, and hopefully they'll see it. If they see it, then you can see if they've viewed your profile, and you can follow up with them and connect to them. One of my favorite ways of doing this is using on the front end, not to do much sales stuff on the front end, really just be curious and create connections, real connections with people, invite them into something like this. Whether or not they actually show up, you can then have they've kind of given you a signal that they're interested in taking the next step. Open a conversation with them, find out where they are now, where do they want to be, what's in the way, and what you can do to help them with get where they want to go. You know, that then becomes the frame for your signature solution, right? Your basket of products, services, you know, and digital assets that enables them to get from where they are to where they want to go. Okay, so that concludes the content portion of today's presentation. I have left some time for questions though. Are there any questions? I mean, I think I've covered the main features, but I really want to make sure it's landed and to make sure that if there's any niggling questions about how to apply those features to find the people you're looking for, now's the time. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, so either everybody's nodded off, or I've done the best damn presentation ever, and there's no further questions.
John, I would say that the reason I don't really look for possible clients on LinkedIn at the moment is that my profile isn't ready. So, okay. I mean, basically my about section should be answering the question, you know, that my signature solution provides. And so until it does that, because the first time you reach out to somebody, they'll go on your LinkedIn page and see what it is you do. I've left mine as a fairly generic sort of coach thing at the moment, and it's just trying to drill down to this: who is my ideal client? And I was interested because the first question I could answer, which was, you know, who is your ideal client, and then the next one was, you know, who, you know, friends of, who do I know who knows these people? I kind of struggled with that one. I don't know how so, you had about 7 questions.
Yeah.
On the slides. It was the second question. The first one, fair enough. You know, the second question, I kind of thought, I don't know the friends of those.
Yeah. So my counsel would be, I mean, I'm making an assumption you already have clients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is go look at their LinkedIn profiles and see who you have mutual friends with.
All right, yeah.
And the results will be surprising of who you're connected with, because you know, those, you know, that's what I mean, like that's kind of grounded. It's completely counterintuitive, but like, you know, go and look at the people who are already.
No, that's a good point. Actually, I see now. You know, there's an opportunity there for me to do that. Yeah.
Sort of blinding flash of the obvious.
Yeah, it's good. Good point.
Good stuff. About the profile.
You have some questions in the chat, John, just to let you know.
Fantastic. All right. I see Pete had a question on Graham's question about the profile, and you also had a question about nurturing, Pete. And I see Dave's got his hand on. So let's go Pete first, and then Dave.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to offer some advice for Graham on creating his LinkedIn profile. Do not focus it on the solution, because that basically, if you're presenting it, and this works for any kind of sales process, if you're presenting your solution, and you know what's the sort of the background you have, the pedigree that you have in doing it, then you're only ever talking to the people that have already decided they've got a problem. They've decided that coaching, or decided that they on the outcome they want for solving that problem. They've made the decision that coaching is the way forward for them, and now they're in the market weighing up different solution providers against each other. That is only 6%.
Yeah.
Total people that could buy from you. So focus your about me section and your profile on demonstrating that you understand the problems that your clients are likely to come to you with, without going into chapter and verse about what your solution is, because that won't get you a connection. this person understands me, this person is credible. That'll get you profile visits and leads, not what your solution is.
Okay, thank you, Pete. I'll have a look at your profile to see how that works in reality.
Yeah, spot on, Pete. It's. I mean, I think the phenomenon is called the expert's dilemma or the curse of knowledge, where us as professionals, we're looking at the root cause of the problem, but we're 17 levels deep into this thing, going, this is the problem. But our clients are not there yet. They're looking at a symptom, and that's where their level of consciousness and their search behavior is. So that's to say, hey, I work with people that have this problem, and my clients had this problem, and they don't have it anymore. So if you want to be like them and not have this problem anymore, then do my process. And my process is the process that helps people with a problem like yours not have a problem anymore.
Okay.
But it's kind of counterintuitive. But yeah, spot on, Pete. 100%. Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, not so much a question, John, really just a comment. Firstly, to say thanks, that was really useful, and thanks, Pete, as well for your comments on that, really interesting. But I've done bits on LinkedIn over the years, not for myself, but for a business I was involved in. We had that kind of blast connections where you reached out with a, hi, this is me. And it was absolutely hopeless. I mean, and I know I'm preaching to the choir. There was no depth, there was no quality of connections, and I think the answer has to be that it's hard work, and it needs time and effort, and I think it's the right strategy. And what I'm taking from today is that this is a piece of the jigsaw, and there's probably a number of pieces that I need to knit together to then put a workflow to get on. For me, the workflow that will work for me. And I think I'm similar to Graham. I think my comfort zone will probably be more commenting on a post and then getting into that. However, I can see instances where there's perhaps a big event that was really kind of critical and really focused on my core work that I might reach out to delegates and things. So it's useful to have a number of different tools in the back. And yeah, I can see this as being the start of this process. So yeah, that was really just my feedback.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, I mean, Dave, we're already working together, so fortunately, we're going to drive this process with you. Mm-hmm. and you don't have to. You just give the strategic inputs, and then we'll, But this is exactly the example of the kind of event that I advocate. So yeah, I mean, as you guys probably have figured out, this is a marketing event of mine, and it's just out of all the different for the expert businesses, I found that if you have to look at all the different types of strategies, connections, comments, posts, and events, and finding people and the whole outreach strategy, I found that the cadence of having events like this, and once every 2 weeks is kind of the sweet spot, because if you do it too often, most of the people that you're looking to speak to are never available this week, right? Because they're busy. That's why they need you, right? So they'll be available next week. So you want to have a 2-week cadence, which allows you to do a week worth of invitations and a week worth of following up. And the combination of connecting strategically with people you want to speak to, comment lightly on them, and then follow up with an invitation. And that then gives you the opportunity to go a little bit further because they've raised their hand to say, I'm actually in the solution seeking mindset around this. And then you can offer that kind of next steps in terms of transitioning into a strategy call or into a sales process. That's just been my experience of the 80-20 of all of these different strategies. Like I said, each of them can work individually, but for me, that's the most elegant solution. And it's also one that I've put a lot of energy into automating. So if people want to, for expert businesses that like talking, right? I created this process largely for myself because I love sharing this information, but the minutiae of all the admin around that is not something I particularly enjoy. But I have a great team that loves building systems. And we spent the last 2 years building out a system that keeps track of the emails, the follow-ups, all of that stuff, so that you as a creator basically can show up once every 2 weeks, talk about whatever you want to talk about, and if people do want to connect with you and follow up with you, then they're able to do that. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and attention. If you do want to find out more about the system, this is kind of in fact, what I would say is just book some time with me. I'll follow up with you afterwards. We've got an offer on at the moment, but I'm kind of what I'm experimenting with this every time to see what are the combinations of this that work the best. But ultimately, what I would invite you to consider, all right, and my cat agrees with me, right, is that what would the future look like if you committed to doing an event every 2 weeks for the next 12 months? Okay. Every 2 weeks, you got up and spoke about something. You invited your target audience to that, and you allowed them to get to know you. Spoke about the problems that you solve, and you post about it afterwards, as I will do. And if you're interested, if that, I want to have you consider that whatever your goals are in terms of growing your business, at the end of those 12 months, you're probably going to be there. Because every time you do an event, it increases the number of people that know about you, whether they actually show up or RSVP. Every time you do an event, there's thousands of people that know it happened. Every time you do an event, you have a recorded session, which adds to your YouTube channel, which is exactly what we're doing. You have transcriptions and snippets that can be added to your social media. There's excerpts that can be taken and built into online courses. And of course, I'm doing all of that stuff. So what I've built, and this is the invitation that I have, if you want to work with me, is to do that. Commit to an event every 2 weeks for the next 12 months. I'll handle, me and my team, that's Kim and Sue who are on the call, will handle all the admin, we'll handle all the invites, all of this connections and all of the stuff that we've spoken about. We'll handle all of that, and you just get to show up. All right. So, as Dave will tell you, I'm quite flexible on the pricing because ultimately I know this works. So because you're on the call, £5,000 for the next 12 months, you get all the software, you get all the support, you get all the things that you need. But I'm also open to taking a percentage of income because I know this works. So we can negotiate in terms of a percentage as well, and you can kind of mix and match this process. But this is my personal mission, is to make it easier for people like you guys to be able to earn the money that you want and live the life you want. That's my invitation to you. If that sounds like something that you want, then obviously reach out to me on LinkedIn. There's probably a meeting link. I'm going to try and do a magic trick and say, Kim or Susan, please put my meeting link in the chat. If you want to book a strategy call. And what happens in the strategy call is we basically look at your business and just populate what your specific one will look like for this. And at the end of that, you can decide whether or not you want to pull the trigger and press go. So no obligation, no stress, no fuss. And that's, there it is, as if by magic. There's the meeting link. If you have any questions about that, I'm available the next couple of minutes, and then I'm going out for dinner with my wife because it's our engagement anniversary today. So, yeah. So any questions, closing questions, thoughts, comments, observations?
This was really helpful. Thank you.
All right. Amazing. Fantastic. All right. Is there anyone specifically that wants me to follow up with them? Just give me a thumbs up. Otherwise, I don't hassle everybody.
I'll follow up with you on LinkedIn. You sent me a message yesterday, so I'll respond to that today. All right.
Perfect. That's great. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time and attention. Baron, definitely follow up with you as well. And have yourself a fantastic afternoon. Like I said, I'm doing these once every 2 weeks. So, hop in, hop out, no pressure. And I really just, if there's any specific questions or any specific things you wanted me to dig more deeply in, happy to do those presentations in as well. So thank you, everybody. Have an awesome day. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.